Okay, so good morning. Today's daf is daf Kaf Vav. We are at the Mishnah at the bottom of Kaf Hey. I'm a bet. We are talking about what you find and where you find it. And let's just dive right in. So Matzah Begal, you find some lost object in a pile of stones, Ubakosel Yashan, or in an old wall, Hare Elu Shalo. Then the object belongs to you because presumably you did not presumably the person who left it there has completely given up hope and has lost the object and doesn't ever expect to get it back, even presumably even if the object has some kind of sign on it. You would assume that that would be the case, but we'll see as we go. So matzah bakosel chadash, you find it in a new wall. Well, then, mechetzio v'lachutz, if it's on the outer part of the wall facing the Rishos Harabim, so as a result, anybody could put it there. Well, then, shalo, then it belongs to the person who found it. Mechetzio, because presumably, again, and they know that lots of people are walking by, and because lots of people are walking by, so then they know that there's no chance that they're going to get it back. But if it's on the inner half of the wall, well, then shall balabayas. Then presumably the owner of the house who lives there is the one who put it there. What happens if the house gets rented to other people? So now you find something on the inner half of that wall. So, well, then not only that, but afilu betocha bias, even if you're within the house, hare elu shalo, then it belongs to the person who found it. Now, when we say that, what is that? Who are we talking about? Take a look at Rashi. Vafilu matzah betocha bias. Deloya dua, we're obvious that you don't. The person who finds it doesn't know. Deman ninhu ubaalav noashu, and so as a result, given that it was lost in a hotel, so to speak, or an Airbnb, so the person doesn't know. Was it the most recent person? Was it a different person? We'll see. The Gemara is going to clarify this case a little bit further. But at the moment, the idea is that the homeowner who lives there as well and is sort of like taking care of the bed and breakfast. So as a result, they get to keep it because it could belong to anybody. So Tana, because presumably the person who lost it knows that or if at most they know that they lost it in the place where they were renting, the space that they were renting, and so as a result, because it's a space that is available to others, they will have given up hope. Okay,
But
so
what's
that's
the case before that? Mechetzio v'lefnim. It's but shall balabayit. Well, how did the other person get inside the house to find it there? What is he doing there? If he rented it, okay, I understand. But
right. Excellent question. So I don't think we don't answer that question. The bottom line is that we're suggesting that the owner of the house does not, in that situation, need to make a separate kinyan associated. So the emphasis is on the shalbala bias, not on the person who happens to have found it. So you're right to raise the question of like, how is he there? He could be a guest. I mean, there are a number of different possibilities. He could be trespassing. He could be walking through a field that people have. That is a shortcut. I mean, there are a number of different reasons that the person could be there, but the bottom line is that the person who finds it doesn't get it. We know that it specifically belongs to the person whose house it is. It's interesting. Again, you raise a good question because why do we refer to shel balabayas in the first case, but then in the last, in the middle case of from the middle of the wall inwards, and then we refer to harei lushalo, but it seems to be the same balabayas that is taking it. Not completely clear, and I didn't notice anything on the page that specifically address that. Okay, so now we come to the Gemara. The Gemara says, Tana, we learned in a brisa. So mipneshi yachol lomar lo shel emurim pain. That now, why is it that the person who finds it gets to keep it as opposed to the person whose wall it is? Because the person, we're talking about the the case of an old wall, because Shalom it belongs to the people who are from Emor, meaning I even before that they the people of Israel came into the land. Meaning the bottom line is that you didn't put it there. It was there before you took ownership of this piece of property. So ato amurim it's not matzni. One second, but is it only people who are from Emor that hide things in walls? Yisrael lo matzni, and Jews don't do that. Of course they do. So why are you focusing on the on Amoraim? So lo tzricha. So we have to clarify the case as we turn to Kavav and Aleph. We're talking about where the item is very rusty, and so as a result, if we take a look at Rashi, halu chaluda rabba, there's a lot of rust. The kuli high low shavik low, right? That much it's not gonna. It's going to indicate that item, the person didn't care about it. It was clearly left behind. And Tosos here says, exactly which Tosos is it? The im tom top Tosos on Kavavim and Aleph. The im tomar v'likni lechatzero lebal hagal o lebal hakosel. Why doesn't the fact that when you bought the field and bought the wall, why doesn't it belong to that person? That according to Tosos, that maybe when you have a field that includes something that maybe you won't find, the field won't acquire it for you. Okay, and so then the Tosos continues to say, give some examples, but the bottom line is that answers the question of why it doesn't belong to the owner of the wall, because without this person who happened to have found it, maybe the item would continue to go unfound for many more years, as is evidenced by the fact that it's all rusty, etc. I don't think Tosos is disagreeing with Rashi on that front. Okay. So now, but Bekoto Chadash, but when it came to a new wall, what did our Mishnah say? Metzia v'lachutz shalo. If it's on the outer half, it belongs to the person who finds it. Metzia l'ifnim shel balabayis. But if it's on the inner half, it belongs to the balabayis. And now Tosos asks a question here in the second Tosos on Kavavam and Aleph. Bekozo Chadash mechetzia b'lachutz shalo. So that's again that shalo. That's the what the Mishnah had said. The im tomer v'ha amrina safek hinuach lo yitul. And 1 second, we have a rule that if in fact you're unsure whether somebody put it there, so then you shouldn't take it. But oda hakakinami natal lahavi makom simon. Moreover, shouldn't this location be an indication of a location that needs to be announced? Right, and all of our Mishnah seem to be implying that we were talking about even with the simon. The kiss Ella, and because we were talking about a knife or some kind of pocketbook. Ella machmas pirka achrisi moki laba odra vinaska, and it was for a different reason that we ended up saying that. V'yesh lomer, so the iri b'shasach dumya dekotel yashan, that we're talking about a situation where again it was shasach, it was very rusty, and so as a result, it's clear the owner of it had already done whatever searching he was going to have done below Matzu, and he never found it. And therefore he gave up hope. But when you are on the inner half, it belongs to the owner. That unlike somebody who loses something on your property, if you lose something on your property, on your own property, you may have lost it for a long time, but you never really gave up hope on finding it, because that it's on your property. Okay, so that was really Tosos on the Mishnah, and now the Gemara explains. Amar Rav Ashi Sakina Basar Kata, that when it comes to a knife, you look at which way the handle is facing. So if the handle is facing the outer side of the wall, so then the point is that presumably the person from the outside of the wall put it in there. And so as a result, it would be treated as if it was on the outer half, even if it actually ended up being on the inner half. And similarly, Mechisa Butzer should not say, and a keys, some kind of purse, will follow its handle, and so as a result, that again tells you which way it was likely put in, and therefore it would override this idea. Presumably, that's the way the Gemara is understanding it. They would override the question of whether it's in the middle, in the outer half, or the inner half. The Ella Masnisin de Katani. Well, 1 second. What about the fact that our Mishnah says Mechetzio v'lachutz, Mechetzio v'lifnim shalo, Mechetzio v'lifnim shal balabayas? When it seems that would disagree with with what we just said. V'lechze e kata lagaz, e kata labar. Why not check to see whether the handle's on the inside, facing in, or facing out? Shenatze lagav o shenatze labar, or whether it's the strings of the purse are facing in or facing out. So masnisin beudra v'naska. So our Mishnah is talking about other kinds of objects, not a knife or a pocketbook. So objects like a tuft of wool. Rashi defines udra in the last of the wide lines and end of the line, and then the first of the narrow lines in Rashi is mochin, something that you can stuff into something. And so that's again, doesn't have any kind of handle, or vinaska, like a bar of metal. So some kind of ingot. So as a result, that's going to all follow the rule in our Mishnah. But if in fact the object had a handle, so then we would follow the brisa. So Tana, if the object was filled with things that were, of the particular item that was found, cholkin, meaning it was all the way thick through the object. So you had some in the inside, some on the outside. So you're supposed to divide it for the person who finds it with the person who owns the house. Pshita, isn't it obvious that you should divide it? After all, it's half within the possession of the homeowner, and it's half within the possession of the person who found it. So tricha de mishapa bechad disa. No, it could be where the wall is leaning in a direction. So ma'udetema ishtapuche ishtapuch. It rolled from one side to the other, and that's why it's across the whole thing. And therefore, maybe in fact you should go based on the side that was higher, and that's which side put it in. So Kamash Balan, no, if it's all there and it's all within the hole, we're going to just focus on where is it now. We're not going to focus on how it got there, if it's not completely clear.
So is this suggesting there's a complete hole in the wall? And
yes, a hole that goes all the way
through the
like
wall.
Yeah.
So therefore, each person could see the object from either side.
Correct. That's exactly what we're talking about in this last case. That the wall, the thickness of the wall is filled with the object. So the easy one is to think about, it's stuff with brand new wool that, and we don't know whether it came from the outside or from the inside because it's thick all the way through. And so we say that in fact, they're going to have to split it. The person who finds it will have to split it with the owner of the house. So
would that be it's similar to the case where we had like a knife, for example, with a handle? It would have to, maybe we could visualize this as there's a hole in the entire wall. So from what end is the handle? I was first thinking that it's only on one side. From what side does the handle extend? But if you think that if that's possible, it's a long wall, how could the handle be on the other side? Maybe it has to be that there's a complete hole from one side to the other.
Yes. The cases that we're talking about now are definitely cases where the hole goes all the way through. If the hole doesn't go all the way through, then you're gonna then it's always going to be on the whichever side has the hole. That's going to be the side that is the one that put the item in. So we in essentially in all cases where this is the more extreme case of where the hole goes through the entire wall, and so we'll say if it's that even though the hole goes through the entire wall, we'll focus on whether it's on the inner half or the outer half. But that you're exactly right. We're talking about a hole that goes from the inside of the wall to the outside, so it goes through the thickness of the wall. So now we're going to turn to the next case in the Mishnah, which talked about the renters. So if the house gets rented to other people, so then we said that even if you found the item in the middle in the house, Hare elu shalo, it belongs to the person who found it. Vamai, lezel basar basra, why not go after the last person who was there? So now there's a debate between Rashi and Tosos on this, because Rashi understands this as referring to the person who last lived in the house, meaning whoever was the last renter. Whereas Tosos, if we go to the beginning of the Tosos, the Nazel Basar Basra, it says the Hainu Balabayas. No, we're talking about the owner of the house gets to keep it. Because presumably he was always there. So Tosos clearly views this as a case of like a bed and breakfast where the owner stays in the house with the residents. Whereas the other possible way of understanding it, of saying that it goes to the last person, it would go to the last person who rented it. That's where you're renting the entire house to people. So you can understand this in both directions. So I note that, but we'll follow it in Tosos's approach at the moment. So Milo Tanan most, and you can understand why you would actually prefer Rashi's approach, because we just said again, to differentiate between the person who is the owner and the person who found it. It seems like those should be different people, and yet Tosos effectively treats them as the same. So again, my lezel basar basar, why not go after the last person who is there? So Milo Tanan, after all, didn't we have a Mishnah? Mo shenimsu lifnei sokre behema. If you find coins in front of the people who sell animals in, we're talking about in Yerushalayim, laolam meiser. We're going to always treat that as meiser sheni money, because presumably people brought, the people who are buying animals in Yerushalayim, they are bringing up their meiser sheni money in order to purchase animals, and Tosos here in the Tosos laolam. It's the last Tosos in the narrow lines of Tosos. Laolam meiser ve'ein litlos demin hamochrin naflu. We're not going to say that this fell from the sellers, the kfar mos chulin, and that it has already become chulin, because the animal that gets purchased with meiser sheni money now becomes the meiser sheni, and the money itself now becomes chulin. Because it became chulin through the acquisition of the animal. Dazlin and basar lokin, because we're going to follow the purchasers. The havaruba, because there are lots of purchasers. The mocher echad mocher lekama bnei adam. So the point is that the money, two points that Tosos is making here. The first is that if we look at the number of people who are bringing money into the space, so that is going to be more people than the seller, who's just a single individual, even though obviously for every sale there is a purchaser and the seller. So from a whose perspective it belongs to, it probably somewhat equal between the two. Although here, obviously, we're saying it's lifnei sokre habehema, so it's in front of the animal dealer, not behind, not where the animal dealer might have put the money afterwards. But the bottom line is that Tosos points out both you have a greater number of purchasers, and the money itself has a chazaka of being Meiser Sheni money. And so as a result, you need something more to take it out of that chazaka. All right. And what happens if you find the money Bahar Bias, if you find it on the mountain on which the Beit HaMikdash was built? So chulin. So then that's going to be chulin of Yerushalayim. And if you find it in Yerushalayim, the Shar Yemos Hashana chulin. During the rest of the year, it's going to be not, meaning not on the holidays itself, not during the holiday seasons. So then it's going to be chulin. B'shas haregel hakol maser. But when it's during the time that people would be going up to Yerushalayim as part of being Ole Regel for the holidays, so then it will be Meiser Sheni. But Amar Rabbi Shemaya ben Zeira, my time. But what's the reason for all of this? Why is it treated like Meiser Sheni? Because the marketplace of Yerushalayim, they are usually cleaned out every day. Alma Amrinan Kamai Azlu. So whatever we see, it's gone from before. Bahani Akrininhu, and these are others. So Hachinami Kama Azo Bahani de Basrahu. So why don't we, just as in this Bryce? No, I'm sorry. This is a Mishnah in Shkalim. Just as in the Mishnah in Shkalim, we focus on the time now that it is, and assume that it came around now. Why don't we say the same thing with respect to the tenant situation and say that it must be from the last tenant? So Amaresh Lakish, Mishum Bar Kapara, Kagon Asu Pundak Lishlosha Yisrael. No, we're dealing with a situation that is more than just you can't simply follow the last tenant, because we're talking about a situation where there were three last tenants. There were three people who were rented, three Jews who rented it all at one time. And so as a result, take a look at Rashi, second of the widest lines of Rashi at the bottom of the page. L'shlosha Yisrael, b'bas achat, they were rented it all together. The kosher kenim hayu obdik chavim, certainly if they weren't Jewish. Umishin nafo mimenu, whoever it fell from, miyayish, they will give up hope. Delo yada miman nabe, because they don't know who to claim from. Now, if in fact there was only one other person who rented the place at the same time, well, you know who to claim it from. You know that if you can't find it in the room any longer, it must be the other guy took it from you. So you won't give up hope, because you will assume that at some point the guy will show his hand and you will get it back. But when there are three, you don't have the ability to focus only on one person, and as a result, you're going to give up hope. So Shema Mina, Halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Doesn't this show that we had seen some time ago, back on a couple over the weekend, I guess, on Kav Daled Amud Aleph? We saw that there's this concept that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar asked the question whether we're talking about a majority of Jews or a majority of non-Jews, that Afil Barov Yisrael, even if a majority of Jews are in a particular place, then do we still say that something that's lost in public is considered lost? That Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said that one can keep something that one finds in a place that has lots of people in it, even if there's a simon, because people give up hope of ever getting it back. But the question was, did he say that even when there are a majority of Jews? And so this seems to suggest that we do say that, because Rish Lakish was saying that we say this in the connection with three Jews in the inn at one time. Ella Amar Rav Menashia Bar Yaakov. No, Kigon Sha'asu Pundak L'Shlosha Ovdei Kochavim. So let's just change the answer. We can change the answer to just saying that we're dealing with a case where there were three non-Jewish people who rented the facility. And so as a result, that's why they're going to give up hope. So, but actually we can give another interpretation that tries to defend saying that it was three Jews, and yet still does not definitively determine that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar's position is also applies to where the majority of people in a place are Jewish. Because Rav Nachman Amar Rabba bar Avua, Afilu Teimel Shlosha Yisrael. You could even say that it was rented to three Jews. And how come in that situation we say that the person gives up hope, but maybe if the majority of people in a location are Jewish, you wouldn't give up hope? So my time, why is it that the person who's going to give up hope why the person who lost the item is he going to give up hope? Meimar Amar, because he's going to say the following: Kid Michti, Inish Achrina, Lo Hava Bahadi Elohani. There were only two other people here. Amri Kamayu, Kama Zimni Lahadrali. So I already said in front of them, how long are you going to hold on to it before you give it to me? And the low hadrali, and yet they still didn't give it to me. The hashla hadrali, and now they're going to come and return it? Of course not. So as a result, I'm going to give up hope. So because if they wanted to give it back to me, they would already given it back. And these guys didn't give it to me. So it mustn't be that they intended to take it. However, as Rashi says, below tifshut the halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, and you can't say that the halacha is necessarily like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The keep ligi rabbanan aleha, that where did the rabbis argue on him and say that no, not in a place where it's heka denafla b'makom shaharabim mitzuyin, that's a place where there were lots of people. Delo yada lahu lakulho desavar haovid umeimar amar hahu de ashkach lo yada mimi nafla the shegia haregel yachris aleha, because when there are lots of people, I have no idea who's going to pick it up, and the person who picks it up has no idea who I am. It's not like the case of where there are two other people in the room, and so as a result, clearly they know, especially since I've announced that I've lost the item, they know who to return it to, and so the fact that they didn't return it will cause me to give up hope. But here I know that there could be lots of people who could pick it up. And one of those people might be somebody who has no idea who I am and has no idea that I lost it. And so then the holiday will come and they'll call it out. The attain siman. And so then I will get, when they call it out and tell me that, I'll give the sign that shows that I own it. The etol, and I'm going to take it. That here they know who is the possible. They know the whole universe of possible people. The Tavainu, and they already tried to get it back from them. Below Odu, and they didn't admit that they had it. So in that situation, Meimar Amar, and they would give up hope, as we said, that as the persons would say, as we quoted in the Gemara. So
what is the difference here between the cases?
So let's go through it. So the in the case where I rented a room and you and Moshe were in the room with me, so I go and I say, listen, I lost my diamond ring. Can you please return it to me? And you say, I don't know what you're talking about. And Moshe says, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, in that situation, I'm going to give up hope because there are only two other people with me. And so that situation, I'm not going to expect to get it back because presumably one of you took it. I don't know which one of you took it. I'm not going to be able to watch you so closely to see when do you try to pawn my diamond ring. And so as a result, I'm going to give up hope. On the other hand, if I lost it in a public thoroughfare, then I don't know who picked it up. And the person who picked it up won't know necessarily to return it to me. But the majority of the people in this place are Jewish. And so as a result, I can rely on the fact that there are so many Jewish people here that of course somebody's going to announce it on the holiday. And so as a result, I can be confident that I will get it back and I will not give up hope in that situation, or at least will not give up hope as quickly. And so that's the explanation how, even though in the case of three Jews renting, which is the case of our Mishnah as we have now interpreted it, that's why the finder gets to keep it in that situation. But if something gets lost in public, the finder does not get to keep it because the finder has to be worried that the owner didn't give up hope because they may have thought that, hey, this is a Jewish neighborhood, I'm going to get it back. Okay, so that's the.
But in the case with three people, is the person who has it really a finder? Maybe he's a thief. Because
yes, that's exactly right.
But there are two people, if there are only three people, and this person knows that one of the other two people took it, and they both deny it, one of those two people who actually took it and denied it is a thief then.
Correct.
He's not really a finder.
Correct. You're absolutely right. He's not a finder. The person who is the finder is the person who happens to be there afterwards, because it turns out that none of that two other people were actually speaking honestly. But in that situation, the person who lost the item will give up hope because he doesn't know that the people were speaking honestly. He's going to suspect one of them as being a thief. And so as a result, that's exactly right. All right.
Mm.
So in that situation, the loser will give up hope right away. And so if it turns out that, of course, if it turns out that one of them is a thief, so they don't get to keep it because they're a thief and they stole it, so they would have to give it back. But in the situation where it turns out that both of the other guys were actually speaking honestly, and now the new person comes into the room and finds it, so then obviously he gets to keep it, because in that situation, the other three people certainly have, whoever owned it from the other three people certainly gave up hope. Okay, but us, Rav Nachman Latame, and Rav Nachman follows his reasoning is consistent with another location. The Amr of Nachman, Ra Sella. If you saw a Sella fall to Nafal Mishnayim, who fell from one of two different people, Chayav Lahafter, you have to go and return it back to the person who lost it. My timer, Hahuda Nafal Mine Lo Miyayish, because the person who lost it is not going to give up hope, because Maimar Amar, he's going to say, Mifti, I know that I was only in this room with Stan. And so as a result, even though Stan did not in fact find my Sella coin, I'm going to assume that Stan is the one who found my Sella coin, because I didn't find it. And so as a result, I'm going to go up to him and I'm going to confront him, and I'll say Antu de Shakote, and I'm going to tell him you took it from me. And even if he denies it, I'm still not going to give up hope, because maybe someday I will see that coin back. But for Shlosha, if there were three people there, Eino Chayav Lahachzer. Now again, the person who saw the three of us hanging out, we'll say that's you. You saw from across the street that Moshe, David, the Moshe, Stan, and I were all hanging out together. And now you see that I dropped my Sella coin. You don't need to return it. You don't even know which of us dropped it. You just saw that, hey, those three guys were hanging out there, and now one of them clearly dropped some money. You do not have an obligation to return. Now, maybe the nice thing to return it, but you don't have an obligation to return it, because you can presume that I have given up hope, because I will say, right, because in that situation, because Maimar so one second, so Bishlosha ain't a chayav lachzer. My timer Hahuda Nafal Minei Badai Miyayish, because again, the person who lost it is going to give up hope, because Maimar Amar, he's going to say to himself, Mikti Trey Havi Badai. There were two other people with me. I had Stan and Moshe with me. So and Inaktina Lahai, if I'm going to confront the other guy, one guy, Amar lo shakalte, I didn't take it. Binaktina Lahai, Amar lo shakalte. The other guy's going to say I didn't take it. Meaning, there's no way I'm going to be able to watch them with an eagle eye and say and catch them in their mistake, because I can't watch two people all the time. So as a result, I'm going to just give up hope, because I know that I'm not going to get it back.
So if
And so
but the
too,
person from the outside, you say, I don't know, he said me, but saw actually saw person A drop the coin.
no, no, no.
Why wouldn't he
No,
give
no,
it back
we're
to him?
dealing with a situation, not quite. No, the only caveat to what you just said is that you don't know which of us three dropped the coin.
Uh-huh.
You don't know. If you saw that I dropped the coin, then I believe that you would be clear that you would have to return it to me. But here is a situation where you don't know which of us dropped the coin. You know that one of us dropped the coin. And the question is do you have an obligation to return it? And in that situation, because of course we're talking about money, and as we saw earlier, we all feel our wallets all the time, and so as a result, it's assumed I will know right away that I lost the money. But since I was with two other people, I won't know who is the one that I should focus on to try and get it back from. And even though the person actually never found it, I will still not be it, because I will still not give up hope, because I will assume that it's that one person. But if it's two people, then you can assume that I gave up hope, and so as a result, you won't have to return it.
So the person from the outside saw the coin drop, but he didn't know from whom it fell.
Correct.
Because if he saw the coin drop from person A, we would think he would have to give it back to him. And if he
Agreed.
saw the coin after the three people left, he doesn't even know if it belonged to any one of those three. So it has
That
to be that he saw the coin drop, but he doesn't know which of the three people.
correct. That's the way I'm understanding it. Exactly that case. So Amar Rabba now says, Hi de Amra Bishlosha Eno Chayav Lahachzer. The situation when we say that with three people you don't have to return, Lo Amran Ela Delays Be Shava Pruta Locho Chad B'chad. That is only a situation where if you look at the amount of money, it's not going to be sufficient so that each of the three people would get a pruta. So that means that I dropped a coin that was less than 3 pruta worth. Because about if it was a shava pruta, in that situation, you're going to still have to return it. Because my timer, Amar Shutafi Ninhu, Velomi Ayash. Maybe we were partners, and that's why and none of us have given up hope. And as Rashi ends up saying that we're partners, and so as a result, I know that Moshe or Stan can sometimes be a teasing guy, and he'll hold on to the money for a little bit and make me sweat it out that fact that I lost it. But I know at the end of the day he's gonna give it back to me. And so as a result, when we're partners, when we're really that kind of friends, so then that we're going to be because that's a possibility that we're that kind of close. So then as a result, I'm not going to give up hope. And therefore, when you can see that it dropped from one of us, you cannot keep it because it's more than one per person. Whereas if it's less than one per person, so then in the case that if we're not partners, so then it's the prior situation. I'm going to give up hope because I'm not partners with these guys. I don't know them so well. But if we're partners, then each of us has less than a pruta worth, and therefore there's no obligation for you to return it. And so as a result, whichever case you end up, you've ended up defending that situation. There's another view that Rabba's statement was not about about having enough for three people. Even as long as the coin was worth 2 prutot, you'll have to return it. My timer, Amer Shutafi Ninu, because again, we could say that maybe they were all partners. And one of them is going to give up and allow the other two to have more than a pruta. So as a result, in that situation, if they were all close, and it could be that one of them would give up their share for another, and so as a result, we have to be sure that even as two people, it wouldn't be a problem. So as a result, for all intents and purposes, the only time that Rav Nachman's statement would be true would be essentially if it was only a single pruta that fell. And so as a result, I think it's safe to say that, even in a Jewish neighborhood, if you see a penny on the ground, you're in good shape to pick it up and take it. Okay. So
the partners are the three people together, or the
yes.
person who saw it is one of the partners?
No. The three people who are together are assumed. What if they were partners, and therefore there isn't this kind of suspicion among them, and therefore the person won't give up hope, because that's fundamentally what we're doing. We're trying to say, is this a situation where the person gave up hope immediately, or is this a situation where the person would not give up hope immediately? That's the question that we're asking. Because again, at the end of the day, that's what's going to allow you, Ken, as the finder, to keep the item. Because if I've given up hope, you get to keep it. If I have not given up hope, especially because we follow Abaye, even if I would eventually give up hope, you don't get to keep it. The question that's the way we paskin. So that's exactly the story.
So how does a person from the outside who sees this drop know if the three people there are partners or not?
That's exactly the point. You don't know that we're partners. And so as a result, only if the amount that I drop is less than a pruta for two people according to the second answer, or three pruta according to the first answer, that's the only situation where Rav Nachman's statement would apply. But if I were to drop a $10 bill, so then you would not be able to keep it. You would have to go to the three of us, because in that situation, maybe I'm not miyayesh. And that's the story. So what we're trying to do here is figure out, is there a situation where I, as the dropper, might not have given up hope immediately? And so what Rava did is he qualified Rav Nachman's statement, because he came up with examples of where I might not give up hope immediately. And that's a situation where the three of us are not just acquaintances, we're business partners. And so, because it could be that we're business partners, you don't get to keep what dropped from one of us. Instead, you would have an obligation to announce that you had found the lost item.
But to whom would he give it back? Which of those three people? He doesn't know if they're partners.
So you're absolutely right. So we would need to be able to bring, one of us would have to be able to bring a simon and prove that the thing that dropped actually belonged to us, either because of the amount that we would have or the place. We would have to give some kind of simon to you that would enable you to rely on that you are giving it back to the original owner. You're 100% right. It's not so clear. You wouldn't know who to give it back to. So we would have to prove it to you. And if we can't prove it to you, you would get to hold on to it because of Hamotzi Mechavero Alav Haraya.
Or perhaps one could say, if he announced, they reveal that they're all partners. So he gives it back to any one of the three and they split it up.
That absolutely, it could be that they're all partners. And again, then in that situation, you're absolutely right. If the three of them say, well, listen, we're business partners. It belonged to all three of us. Well, you saw that it dropped from one of us, so you're just not sure which because you were at a distance. So then, yeah, absolutely, you would be able to give it back to any of us because we're three business partners, 100%. Shkach, I like that answer. All right, but Amar Rava, Ra Sela Shanachla. Now, if you find a seller that fell, not lifnei yeyush, and now in this situation we're modifying again based on the prior situation. We're now going to modify it to teach a new halacha. You see who it fell from. So not lifnei yeyush. If you take it before the person could possibly have given up hope, almanas legozla, and you took it in order to steal it over b'chulan, you have violated everything. Now, what is everything? Thankfully the Gemara tells us. Mishum lo tigzel. You rob the person again because you know who took it. It's interesting that it's lo tigzel as opposed to lo tignov, but
it's broad daylight.
Yeah, so that could very well be it, because you did it with in public, exactly as you're suggesting in broad daylight. So as a result, you're not worried about who would know and see you. So as a result, it's lo tigzel umishum hashev tishivim, and you violated the obligation to return a lost object. Umishum lo sucha lehisalem, and you violated the prohibition against hiding your face so that you don't see the lost object. So all three of those things you've violated. Even if you then later return it after the person has given up hope, if you've only given the person like a present, the isura de avid, and the violations that you did. Now Tosos here qualifies that and says let's take a look at the Tosos. Matana ba'alma hu diyahle. Ve'im tomer b'halo lav de lo tigzol mikre nitak la'aseh be'perak shiluach hakan. We say that the violation of lo tigzol is a lav hanitak la'aseh, meaning that you can do a positive commandment that of returning the item after you stole it. Im kain kaven de inyan gzela lo mikre matana. When it comes to the gift, when it comes to calling this a gift, it's not really a gift when it comes to the stolen aspect of it. And gam Hashem teshivim lama lo tikim. And why haven't you fixed the concept of returning it? You did. So v'yesh lomer de lo kai ela al lav de lo tucha lehitalem sha'avar shelo hechzer kodem yeyosh. That when you return something only after the person has given up hope, and you had taken it with the intention to steal, then you have no longer an opportunity to undo the prohibition of hiding your eyes from the item. That's how Tosfos understands this Gemara.
Which
Not
Tosfos? Which
what?
one? Which
This was the
Tosfos?
Tosfos Batana Ba'alma. Okay, and so Natal if Neyesh Almanas Lahakzira Ula Achar Yesh Niskaven Lagosla. What happens if again I saw that Charlie dropped the dollar, and now I took it with the intention of returning it, but then I got busy, and now it's after Yayush, and Charlie has given up hope, and now I say, you know what, I'm going to just keep it. So I intend now to steal it. So over Mishum Hashev Teshivim, I have violated only the prohibition of not returning it because I have not violated lo tigzel. Take a look at Rashi. Over Mishum Hashev Teshivim. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14 lines above where it says Mishnah in the Rashi. So overall, Mishum Hashev Teshivim, lo tigzel lo shayach. That the violation of lo tigzel doesn't apply. El b'shas natil, that only applies at the time that you take it. Kamo v'yigzol as chanit miyada mitzri, as we we're from Shmuel bet. Kedamar b'Bava kama lo tuchal lehitalem ena azhara el lakovish es enav v'nimna milahatzil. And similarly, when it comes to not hiding your eyes away, you have not failed to do that, because that only refers to somebody who closes their eyes and doesn't try to save it. If you actually take it in order to return it, and only after yesh niskaven legozla, you'll then intend to steal it. There's no mitalem. So the only thing you violated about hashev teshivim. But once you take it and you don't give it back, well, then you have violated the prohibition of hashev teshivim. What about himtin law adshnis yashua balam unatala? What if you stay in, if I see that Charlie has dropped the $10 bill, and I stand at a distance and I say, you know what, I'm going to wait 20 minutes, because in 20 minutes I know that Charlie will have figured out he lost the $20, and then I'm going to take it. So he will have given up hope on getting it back. In that situation, the only thing I violated is hiding my eyes, because I didn't pick it up immediately to try and return it. And so as a result, that would be the violation in that situation. So we've clarified how these three prohibitions connect. That lo tigzol is about how you take it and the intention you have when you take it. Hashev teshivim is about holding on to it and not returning it. And lo tuchal talem is about getting it right away and not hiding your eyes from it, and not really about getting it right away with the intention to return. So if you don't take it with the right intention, or you don't get it right away, you'll have violated lo tuchal lehitalem. So Amar Rava, we'll finish this Gemara and then we'll end for the day. So Amar Rava, Chaiman dechaziv denafel zuze mechavre bechalta. If somebody sees a zuz fall into the sand, but ashkache ushkale, and then now you find it and you can take it. Lo mechayev la'adurele. You have no obligation to return it. My time, why? Hahu denafel mine miyayeshu. Whatever the person dropped into the sand, he's going to give up hope. Even if the person comes and takes a sieve and starts sifting the sand, because Maimar Amr, all he's saying, yes, he might be trying to hope that he finds the thing, but he's really saying to himself, just as something fell from me, something must have fallen from other people, and I'm going to find something, but not necessarily my own thing. Because the point is that sand, when it falls into the sand, it moves around so quickly. All of a sudden, it's like the sand really ate it. It's the basis for many horror movies. And so, as a result, the point is that you're not necessarily whoever drops it is going to effectively give up hope immediately, and so as a result, in that situation, you can take whatever you find in the sand. So
Is
if you
this
want to go,
talking about Dafka Zuzim coins, or is that just an example? For instance, suppose someone dropped a diamond ring in the sand.
I think an example. It's not meant to be dafka. Anything that falls into the sand, obviously, something that falls that's into the sand that's light and is on top of the sand, that wouldn't be the case. But anything that falls into the sand that gets mixed into the sand and is going to be like a coin, that would be covered, as I understand this. Obviously, you probably should ask a Shiloh if you actually find something, but especially if you know who the owner is. But in that situation, and again, this is the strict letter of the halacha. Obviously, if you find if somebody's wallet
Well,
is given.
yesterday we talked about Lifni Meshurat Adin.
Exactly. If we're talking about lifnei mishuras hadin, so then obviously if you see that the person's got their name on it and you have the opportunity to return it, usually it's probably a nice thing to do to return it to the original owner.
So a couple things here. This obviously has to be greater than just coins because we're talking about Torah halakha here, and coins hadn't been invented yet at the time of the Torah. So it has to be broader than simply coins, but anything that is not going to have a siman.
Well, again, at the moment, even something that has a siman, if it falls into the sand, we cannot be. The person is likely to have given up hope on it. So because he does not expect to find it again, it's sort of the question. It's sort of like the situation of where the water washes it away. When we say that in a situation where the water washes it away, even when it does have a simon, you don't have to return it. You don't have to even announce it because the person is assumed to have given up hope. But but again, as Ken suggested, the point is that you have lifnei mishuras hadin. To go beyond the letter of the law is obviously a good thing here, especially if it's got somebody's name in it. That would be a nice thing to do, is to return it to the original owner.
And the other thing is, I recently had an experience where I left some things in the safe of my hotel room and checked out. I reported it to the hotel security. They actually found it and returning it, and they returned it, and weren't even Jewish.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's actually interesting I think some of the when you're dealing with professional people, I think some of the yayish questions get altered because of that, because you have a right to expect potentially some people to return things. So I think you're right to highlight that can actually impact the whether or not we can assume that somebody was the Yayish. So we'll pick up, God willing, tomorrow
Yashikar.
from the Mishnah. Looking forward to continue our learning. I'll be back
Shushan
on
Purim
Wednesday.
Sameach.
And Chag, yes, exactly. Shushan Purim Sameach to everybody. Have a great day, everybody.